Welcome to the Alpha Wolf Impact Club. I'm Tim Weintraut, and this is where we shine a light on small companies with big ideas. Our mission here is crystal clear. We want to identify, support, and champion game changers. Those companies that are tackling massive challenges, revolutionizing industries, saving lives, or making us more efficient. For example, today we have Paige Tucker, CEO and founder of ProStar. ProStar is a software company that specializes in developing patented cloud and mobile solutions offered as software as a service. Their flagship product is PointMan, a precision mapping solution proven to significantly enhance the workflow processes and business practices associated with lifecycle management of critical infrastructure, both above and below the Earth's surface. PointMan provides the ability to precisely capture, record, display, and manage critical infrastructure in real time, including roads, bridges, railways, pipelines, and utilities. Their clients span from Fortune 500 construction companies to utility owners, government agencies, engineering and surveying firms, municipalities, and universities. This is an impact company, and I'm going to let Paige tell you more about that in just a moment. This is not to be taken as investment advice. I am not a certified financial planner. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence.
What's happening, everybody? Tim from Alpha Wolf Capital coming at you. This is an unusual interview today, but this is a really cool interview. This is actually Paige Tucker, the CEO of PointMan and ProStar. So ProStar Geo Solutions?
GeoCorp.
GeoCorp.
Yep.
So ProStar actually was the first real interview I did with a company when I started doing the interviews for YouTube. The very first one was on a Sunday. And it is one of the companies that I am most passionate about because I see what this gentleman has thought of and then created, which was, I think you were told how many times that there's no way you'll ever do it.
No way we can do it.
Right. And not only did you do it, right? It's now been in existence for how long?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years, and has the industry adopted it, embraced it with
Open arms?
Yeah.
No.
Is that shocking to you?
It is a little bit because obviously, I mean, what we have developed can change the world. I mean, that's the reality of it. It can create so much efficiencies, but more importantly, I think this should be paramount and really at the top of the message that we provide is it addresses a serious safety issue. It even saves lives.
So if any of you don't know what ProStar does or what PointMan's software is, I mean, I've done a couple of interviews with Paige. I've done some with his was tech guy, CTO. What they have is an amazing thing. Why don't you just give everybody a quick rundown of what it is you do?
Quick overview. So we have designed what we consider to be the most precise mapping system in the world. Everybody's familiar with Google Maps. Google Maps accurate to a few meters. I like to use the example, sometimes you'll call Uber and they'll be on the wrong side of the street. We've designed a mobile mapping solution that is accurate to the centimeter. Very high level precision. But more importantly, really what our core competency is the ability to identify where all the utilities and pipelines are located down to the centimeter anywhere in the world. on a mobile phone.
So when you say this, right, that's probably it's probably difficult for people to really comprehend what you're saying. But you have some pictures on your site that will show you. And I don't know where those pictures are from. I don't know if it's from New York or wherever it is, but under the ground, there is just a spaghetti bowl of stuff, right? That you got power, you've got cable, you got telecom, you got sewer, you've got gas, you've got, I mean, now fiber, you've got, I mean, we just keep putting more stuff.
It's only getting worse.
Sewer, all of this stuff, water, deepest in the ground. We don't even know. Those pipes have been in the ground for so long, we don't even know what the pipes are made out of, probably, right?
Correct.
And we don't know where the hell they are.
No, not with any level of what we consider to be accuracy. We kind of have an idea of where they might be if there's records that we have of where they were placed in the ground. But in most cases, a lot of those utilities were put in the ground 60 to over 100 years ago, before there was any type of regulation or compliance. No one was really concerned about where they were going into the ground, because once you bury them, it really doesn't matter. The real challenge now is that that infrastructure is becoming old and dilapidated. It's all over the news now. I mean, we've got to replace our water and sewer systems, and those are the ones that are buried deepest into the ground. So that they have to come out of the ground to either be repaired or replaced. The challenge is as you mentioned, there's a spaghetti bowl of other utilities that have been placed into the ground over the last 100 years, around them and on top of them. So you got twofold problem here. Number one, we need to know where those water and sewer systems are, but we're also going to have to identify where all those other utilities are, or there's going to be some serious complications during the maintenance and repair or replacement of the water and sewer systems. And it's already starting to happen. And now on top of that, we have so much fiber optic that's going into the ground, and that demand is increasing exponentially because of all the data centers to drive the AI movement. So exponentially, it has increased over, I would say, even just over the last few years, the amount of damages that are occurring as a result of trying to place new utilities into the ground and also repair the older utilities in the ground. And the real challenge is, this is a serious risk to the worker on the job site that leads to serious injury and even death. And the amount of injuries and the amount of deaths are going up every single year.
That was one of the biggest things that I recognized with you guys right off the bat, right? And that was one of the things that I try to focus on. Is I really try to focus on companies that can make a positive impact in the world, right? I saw yours and I started thinking about the ripple effects of what you were offering and what that could mean, right? Not to just one industry. I mean, the ripple effect is massive because, and you've said this before, you can't do anything above ground if you don't know what's going on below ground.
Correct.
Right? And to back that fact up, how many accidental utility strikes do we have in this country a year?
Well, the numbers show that we have a incident, which means we strike a utility line about every minute of every working day. And as a result of that, they say that the numbers are over $30 billion worth of damages, but there's studies coming out that says, no, the total cost is over 60 billion. So it's a big number.
It's a huge number.
It is.
And you're talking about, now it could be, I mean, they can, I know for a fact that with the fiber, they use some kind of a tamping tool that pounds the ground. And some of the sewer pipes are made out of clay. And they pound the ground, they crack those pipes, they pull up and leave, they're gone. About, I don't know, a month, 2 months later, those cracks start to come up through the surface of the ground. Now you've had your sewer that's been leaking into the ground, maybe into the water supply, maybe into the food supply. I don't know. But that's where people start to get sick, right? This is, like you said, only going to get worse because this demand for power and for AI consumes a lot of power, consumes a lot of water too, right?
100%.
So you've got everything is interconnected. And if we don't address the problems that we have, which is 500,000 utility strikes on average a year, who pays for all of that?
In most cases, it's the consumer that pays for it because obviously there's a cost to damages, but those costs are passed on to the consumer. That's why your electrical bill, and power bill, and heating bill continue to go up every year. A lot of that has to do with the cost of the damages that are incurred every year. So it's not the utility paying for it, even though it's expensive when it does happen. It's passed down to.
Right. Who pays? Why is it that every year my electric bill goes up? Or my insurance bill goes up because accidental. I'm sure that the insurance company is well, at least perceived that they have to cover these damages, right? So when I look at it, I say, to me, when I first met you, and that was almost 5 years ago, I thought to myself, my God, my Lord, this is like going to be the easiest thing ever because this guy has solved a massive problem. And I am shocked 5 years later, nobody's using it. Now, I'm not saying nobody's using it, but I would have anticipated by now that this would have been on every job site. Every job site would be safer. When I, for 5 years, see articles that come out and somebody died because they hit a gas line, to me, that's unacceptable because there is a solution. Now, one thing we're really bad at is adopting change, right? The adoption curve. But what I don't understand is when it is something that is impactful as this, it helps protect the environment, right?
It does.
It makes every job site safer immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't want to work on a safer job site? I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would choose to want to work on a less safe job site,
100%.
right?
Yeah, you want to make sure you're working under safe conditions and as safe as possible.
Right. So if a death occurs that because you hit a gas line that didn't have to be hit because there's actually a software. How about this? This one's really got me perplexed. We have a brand new building going up. Let's say it's a big, I don't know, high rise. And we've got open trenches with utilities going to that brand new project. Do we record the precise location and depth of those?
No, and that's actually kind of surprising. We know that we have a major issue over the last, say, century because we didn't do a good job of mapping where the utilities were being installed. But today,
back then, it was on like paper and rocks and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's on paper. But today, we have the technology to digitally record exactly where these utilities are going into the ground down to the centimeter. But we're still not doing it. And that is what's frustrating for me. That makes no sense. I mean, if we couldn't do anything about what took place in the past, there was nothing we could do to identify where the utilities and pipelines are located. Okay, but how about from this point moving forward? We did a better job, utilized all these emerging innovative technologies to digitally record exactly where they are going into the ground, then we wouldn't be faced.
Which does two things, by the way, right? I mean, if you're recording it at the time it's getting installed, you're actually confirming that it's being installed properly.
Correct. That's a very good point, because there are regulations of where various utilities have to be placed into the ground. You know, gas line has to be placed basically about 6 feet into the ground for safety reasons. But we don't actually know if it's being placed into the ground 6 feet, because it's generally a contractor that's bid on that job to place it in the ground. And it's human nature. We're going to take path of least resistance. There's certain things that can affect utility going into the ground. Ground conditions can be too hard. Once you open up the ground, there could be like rocks and obstacles that are in the way. So you're gonna go around it, and then you bury it, and then
And then there's this thing, because I used to work construction, there was this saying, looks good for my house.
No, but I think you brought up an interesting point. So even if it was from this day forward, I mean, it just seems logical that we would be recording specifically and accurately where these utilities are going into the ground, because it creates so much efficiency and saves so much money, and reduces risks in the future. But we've developed a solution that can also go back in time. We can identify where all the existing utilities and pipelines are located in the ground. And in most cases, we do not have accurate records, if we have any records at all. So, you know, we're hitting them on both ends with our solution. Why has the adoption been so slow? I think it's human nature that we're resistant to change. We don't like to change the way that we've always done things. And in particular, in the construction industry, the business practices that we're still utilizing today have been well entrenched for 40 or 50 years. So you're talking a major change. As a result, the construction industry might be the last holdout as far as a major industry that has not gone through what we call the digital transformation.
And you know the irony here? As the construction workers, the craftsmen, as they're getting ready to retire, we've got a youth that doesn't want to work construction, right?
That's right. So, yeah, the workforce is shrinking.
How weird is that whole dynamic, right? So they're lagging in tech, and yet the younger generation is very tech savvy.
Correct.
Right? So maybe that's part of the reason that they're not attracted to the industry. And at the same time, the industry could start enabling tech that would revolutionize the industry, right? So it's like this weird space that we're in. Like, maybe if it was more tech savvy, there would be more of the youth that would want to go that direction. But because it's not tech savvy and it really just looks like manual labor, well, then they don't want it.
That's a good point. You're right. I mean, all of us, we want instant gratification. And the way we do it in the world today is everything is readily accessible on a mobile phone.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, a lot of people have grown up playing, you know, video games. They're very tech savvy. They don't want to go into an industry that's operating in the dark ages. That's kind of boring. And they probably question, like, why are we doing it this way? And I think part of why we are starting to see some adoption, though, is because, as you mentioned, the workforce is getting older, retiring. We call it change of guard. So you have a lot of newer people that are coming into the workforce that are actually expecting to be able to utilize technology to make their job easier and more efficient and safer. And if they go to a corporation or go to a company that's not utilizing technology, you know, they probably question if they want to go work there or not.
Right. Why would they? Right. I mean, if they're looking at it going, boy, this is like stupid. Why don't they just use a thingamabob to figure out? I mean, why are they doing it this antiquated way? Right.
Well, the question, like, I can't get this information on my phone. They're probably dumbfounded, right? And a guy comes out with a piece of paper,
Right.
and holding it up to the light. Oh, I think the utility line's somewhere around here. Probably like, what are we doing?
Right.
And where we are seeing adoption too is there's a lot of new companies that are coming into the industry because they see the opportunity that they can capitalize on the fact that some of these even bigger companies aren't utilizing technology. And some of these workers and entrepreneurs that are starting these companies are young, and they see that we can utilize technology. It'll give us a key differentiator. It'll make us far more competitive, because if the technology is properly utilized, it does save money, which means there's a higher probability that we can come in and do the job more efficiently, which means we can do it for less money, and it's all based on bids.
Right. If we were to take this a step further, and this is one of the things that I thought about when I first got involved, I thought, well, the insurance companies, if you're bonding a job, why would you not want your solution to be used on every job site that you're bonding, right? I mean, if you talk to construction companies and ask them, what are your 3 top priorities? They'll say safety, number 1. Number 2, get the job done on time. Number 3, come in under budget. Do you help in any of those areas?
Yeah, number 1, I think it's fair to say that we run the gamut there. We cover them all. In fact, we have done case studies, one of them with one of the largest construction companies in the world, where we proved that implementing our solution to identify where all the utilities and pipelines were located before the construction actually started, we reduced utility strikes by over 97%. Now, keep in mind, on most of these jobs, and some of them, might be a $50 million job, some of them might be $5 billion. They build into the bid that there's at least an additional 5% cost associated to the project just for hitting utility lines.
Because they anticipate they're gone.
They're 100%. These are like landmines buried below the ground, and you can't avoid them, and you are going to hit them. So you have to build them into the bid.
Okay.
And 5 to say 7% cost that you're building into the bid, that represents about the margin you're going to make on the project.
Right.
So imagine if we can reduce that by 97%. That number can even be higher. I mean, if they utilize the software properly, reducing utility strikes might be up closer to 100%, because we can identify where every utility is buried below the ground down to the centimeter and display it on the mobile phone so you can see exactly where it is. And now, we're integrating all these other emerging technologies like AR, so you can just hold up your phone and you can actually see what's buried below the ground.
And that's where things are really kind of, I mean, we talked before we hopped on, you were telling me about the RTK thing.
So when we first set out to develop the solution, obviously we had this idea that we were going to build a solution that can identify where all the utilities and pipelines are buried below the ground down to centimeter accuracy on a mobile phone. But even ourselves, we're a tech company, so we embrace other technologies. So we created an open API platform where we can integrate into multiple technologies where we don't have to develop ourselves. We can utilize their technologies, embrace their technologies, and just integrate it seamlessly into our technology. So augmented reality is an example. We have a company that developed augmented reality. We're not going to develop it ourselves. We just integrate into their technology. What you're talking about is RTK correction. So to get centimeter accuracy, you have to utilize a GPS device that has the ability to gather the information coming from the satellite from a base station that does all the corrections. So that's why I said, if you're using the GPS chip in your mobile phone, you're going to get accuracy that's measured in meters. To get to centimeter accuracy, you have to correct the satellite stream that's coming down directly from the satellite. You have to have a base station set on the ground that removes all the interference, things that are even over my head, ionosphere and reflections. And then that would go to the rover, which would be like your mobile phone. That's what'll give you the centimeter accuracy. Now there's that correction service for numerous years has been very expensive, cost prohibitive, like $3,500 to $4,000 a year just for the correction service per user. Now there's new companies coming out with emerging technologies, just as it is for technology, that's significantly driving that cost down, making it more affordable for anyone to utilize. And so again, we're integrating that company's technology We have it now running seamless into PointMan. So we're creating this ecosystem where it's not just ProStar and our technology, it's a collaboration of multiple companies that provide the most state-of-the-art technologies that collectively we can say that we by far have the most comprehensive, cost-effective, accurate solution in the world. And yet all of us are still experiencing that slow adoption curve. But I feel for numerous reasons, like we've got hardware manufacturers that are developing new equipment. Again, these new emerging technologies. We have multiple companies in multiple industries that are starting to adopt our technology. So for an industry that's been slow to adopt, it appears we're getting to what I would consider to be that perfect storm where everything's converging. And I think over the next, could be 6 months to a year, we're going to see a significant increase in the adoption. And then once that starts to happen, then the entire industry has to make a choice. You know, you either lead the adoption, you follow the adoption, or you fail. You know, it goes, I could name multiple big companies that thought they were, you know, too big to fail and that they didn't need to change. Eventually the change does come, but it always starts out slow. Then you have early adoption, then the adoption starts to increase, and then that adoption spikes. And I think we're going to see that. You know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I honestly think that in 2026, we're going to see widespread adoption, and it's going to be throughout the world. This isn't just an issue in the United States.
Oh, this is global.
This is a global problem. This is a, not knowing where the utilities and pipelines are buried is a multi-trillion-dollar issue, not billion, multi-trillion. And all those utility lines have to be repaired or replaced. And it starts with our water and sewer systems. In the United States, as I mentioned, are what we call critical infrastructure, you know, is 50 to 100 years old. In other parts of the world, it's 200 to 300 years old. So it's even worse in areas like certain parts of Europe, throughout Asia, and we're starting to see adoption throughout Europe and Asia as well, too. So we're not just seeing adoption in the United States, we're seeing it in other parts of the world.
So one of the things that you were attacking the market or going to market on was, you know, your thought process was, let's go out to the contractors, let's go out to the municipalities, let's show them what we've got, and they should come, you know, breaking down your doors to get involved, right? And it has been far from that. I mean, you have been out there, you've hired a sales force. I mean, you went aggressively after it. Wall Street loved the story because it's compelling. There's a lot of big numbers to get thrown around. And this is where the adoption curve thing, this is where it hurts, right? Because what people don't or fail to recognize is Paige Tucker is not some, you're not this savant. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But you came up with this concept how long ago? When did you start working on it?
First came up with the concept about 18 years ago, with the idea, just based on my knowledge and background in software development, cloud, and GIS, which is mapping. And I grew up in the oil and gas industry. I was like, you know, if I could take all this knowledge, one of the major issues even in the oil and gas industry is not knowing where these pipelines are. And when you hit them, it's disastrous.
Right.
I mean, the cost just goes through the roof. I mean, you could lose the entire profitability on a project just by hitting one pipeline. But on top of that, it is a serious endangerment to the worker, but also the environment. I mean, you get a pipeline, you got to, environmentalists come in. They've got to see what the damage is to the environment. So not only does it reduce costs, and I knew it would significantly, it also addresses worker safety and also environmental issues, which is, if you can reduce cost on a project, you can reduce risk on the project, and you can address environmental issues, then you've got something of value, right? And I thought, I have to be honest, if someone said that it was going to take 10 years before you start to see adoption in the market, I was going to say, you're crazy. There's no way. But what we decided to do, and I kind of did a little bit of a shift about 9 months ago, I said, for this to work, we have to have hardware. You have to have the GPS devices. There's devices out there that you can locate where the utility lines are, but they don't capture the information. So we do depend on other hardware devices, the utility locate devices, as well as the GPS receivers. And I said, look, those companies already have a well-established distribution network, and they have customers, and they're all over the world. So what we should be doing is establishing relationship with them. But again, the adoption curve. I had to convince the hardware manufacturers that you're no longer selling hardware. You need to be selling a solution, because the power's in the data that you can collect.
Yep.
So we should partner. You embrace our technology. It's kind of like Microsoft becomes the operating system for all the PCs.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is we become the operating system for all the hardware providers. We're kind of the de facto software solution, because now what they can do is they can go to their customers, and they're not selling hardware. They're selling a complete solution, not only on what we provide, but now I've integrated into all of these other companies' technologies, and they can go in kind of a la carte and select other technologies that they might want to be utilizing as well, and they're all seamless into PointMan. Now, keep in mind, it took 10 years to create all of those relationships and get to the point where we have kind of a reputation in the market that we are the best mapping solution, and they see the value in integrating into our platform.
When you think things make complete sense, they're just logically, they make sense. It's shocking to me to see how long this process has been and how difficult. And like I said, what really, really, really gets me is when I see it actually, it did not have to happen. That's how I look at it. Just like, that didn't have to happen. I mean, it's accepted. It shouldn't be, right? I mean, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. If we have the ability to do something, then why wouldn't we do it if it's going to make every job site safer, if it's going to make everybody more efficient? And I know, because I've dug into this, because I really want to understand. I want to understand, why is this so difficult? And a lot of it is fear. People are afraid that it's going to somehow impact their job or
Replace them,
right? But we got to get to a place where we say, well, maybe it will. I don't know that it will ever replace you, but I mean, it's going to help you do your job better, right? And safer. And instead of fearing it and trying to act like it isn't there,
embrace it.
Embrace it.
It's human nature. If something's unknown, it's our tendency to be somewhat afraid of it. Like, wow, is that going to have a negative impact on me or a positive impact? And we tend to lean towards negative. It's human nature. And I'm sure all of us were resistant to embracing some type of technology, regardless of what it was. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, when Uber came out, I'm like, I'm not using Uber. I'll just take a taxi, right? Well, it's completely gone the other way now. Like, why do you even take a taxi when you can use Uber? Right. But for multiple reasons, I thought, well, first of all, it's not going to be safe. These drivers probably aren't going to be insured. I can't trust them. Their vehicles aren't going to be clean. But in reality, it's the complete opposite, and it's all taken care of itself. I'm not going to get in an Uber unless it's nice and clean. In fact, most taxis aren't nice and clean.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get into Uber, there's usually a bottle of water waiting for me. I get in a taxi, I'm gonna have to wait till I get to the hotel before I have the water. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's completely changed. But all of us have been that way, where we're resistant to change in technology. I don't want to age myself, but I remember when text came out, and I'm like, why are you texting me? Why just email me?
Oh, yeah.
No, but now I'm like, why are you emailing me?
No, you can just text me.
So it's human nature. But once again, change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. Embracing technology is inevitable, especially as you said, when it's a no-brainer. So the change is coming. I'm very confident about that. And I'm very patient because I've been doing this long enough now. And during this time where we haven't seen the widespread adoption that we expected, we weren't just sitting around twiddling our thumbs. We were working with our partners. We were working with our customers, and we continued to enhance the product. So the product I had 3 years ago that I thought was phenomenal, that everybody would come rushing to, today is significantly improved and enhanced, where we've got pretty much everything covered now, right? So yeah, I'm pretty confident that the change is coming. I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is keep plugging away. But we keep adding customers every single month. Our customer base is growing. Our partnerships are growing. I used to have to call the hardware providers and explain to them why it would be of value to them to integrate into our technology. Today, they're calling me from all over the world. They recognize that they need a complete solution. And we are becoming known as the de facto solution because we're working with the biggest hardware manufacturers. So the other ones don't have to question if they should be integrating into our technology because the bigger companies are already starting to do it. And we have like state of Colorado mandated our software. Now we've been integrated and working with CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, for 5 years. Now you're talking about resilient to change and slow to move government, but now we have a handful of DOTs that we're working with because they see the success that has taken place for CEDA. We're working with the state to integrate into their 811 system, which for everyone out there, that's the call before you dig, which you have to, by law, before you do any construction that requires digging activity, you have to call into the 811 center. You actually dial 811, notify them where you're going to be digging, and then someone has to go out and locate where the utility lines are. But for 50 years, we've been putting paint marks on the ground, a paint mark to identify where your utility is.
And how accurate are those paint marks?
Well, you can't even use the word accurate because it's not accurate. At best, it's accurate to about 1 meter on either side of the paint mark. And then you don't know the depth. Plus,
And that's not, look, I want to make sure we're clear about something. That is not to make the locator, we're not pointing fingers at the locator. It's not the locator.
No, it's the current business practice and workflow. It's worked. I mean, anytime you do anything, it's better than doing nothing. But if nothing's changed over a few decades, with all the technology that's available to us, regardless of what the business practice is, I'm sure I can go take a look at it and say, why aren't you embracing this technology or that technology? But they haven't done it at all. In addition, where the paint marks go down is exactly where they're going to be doing construction, which means that paint mark's going to be temporary anyway. We have a technology here today. We can identify exactly where that utility is, what type of utility it is, how deep it's in the ground, down to the centimeter, digitally capture it. You can see it on your phone. You can share that with anybody that needs that information in real time. And in addition to that, in the future, you can go back and see exactly where it is on your cell phone.
Right.
I mean, to me, that just makes good business sense. But the adoption has been slow. But the adoption is starting to ramp up, and in multiple sectors. And I think what's really going to create the change is that, I mean, we're a small company. One small company is not going to come out there and change everything. I mean, that's a pretty tall task, an uphill battle. But I think with the ecosystem that we're creating, now you've got multiple companies that are pushing for this, then I think that's going to create the change and increase the adoption. So that's why I'm more confident than ever.
So I want to give everybody just a little, and this is the things about the stock market that maybe people don't recognize. So when you first came along and had your story, and you talk about the story, I mean, there's some really big numbers being thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the attention of Wall Street. And they were willing to open up the pocketbook because they saw that you were a solution.
Yeah.
But when the market's not ready for you, when you're too early, and I don't think it has anything to do with what you are offering. It's just people aren't ready for whatever reason, right? So what happens? What happens? In the beginning, it's easy for you to get equity, right? To sell some shares, and that gives you the capital to try and go out there and win over the customer base. But if the customer base isn't ready, or maybe the concept is just too complex for them to wrap their head around, or what you've often heard was, yeah, there's no way you can do that.
Well, I think there's, a couple dynamics that go into that. Number one is it's easier to sell the story when you're not generating revenue. That's just a simple fact, because you can make the numbers as big as you want, right? And when you're talking about a global issue, you almost have to taper those numbers down, if anything. Okay.
Mhm.
Once you go to market, once you're generating revenue, I think it's a little easier to identify if the company is going to be a success or not, just based on the revenue that they're generating. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So if your revenue ramp up is slow, that's probably a pretty good key indication that this isn't going to work. Okay. As a result of that, share price starts to slide down. Your initial investors become a little bit what they call investor fatigued, and they're done. Well, that even drives the share price down a little more, right? And that's the reality. Like I say, Wall Street, that's the game. That's how it works. And it's extremely difficult to turn that around, especially when you're a micro cap company, because penny stocks have a kind of a negative
Already have a
connotation.
bad reputation.
100%. Like I think, whatever, 80-90% of them fail within the first few years. So how do you separate yourself that you're not part of that 80 or 90%? There's only one way to do it. You got to dig your heels in. You got to believe in what you're doing, and you got to keep plugging away. And I think part of it is you just have to show that, every month, every quarter, every year, that you are actually providing momentum, and you're showing that you're heading in the right direction. Now, I also think there's opportunities in that, because, like, for example, when we first went public, it was 40 cents per share. That's Canadian. I think in Canadian dollars today, we're down around 12 cents. And I went public 5 years ago. If you take a look at everything we've accomplished and the fact that we do have adoption, we've got states mandating our software, this ecosystem of all these hardware manufacturers that are basically putting their money where their mouth is and saying, yes, this is the direction everything's going. And you can pick up that stock for 25% of what it was when we first went public, when it really was kind of a Hail Mary. I think it's a good time to invest in the company. But you know what I tell everybody? It's like, I'm gonna show you. Like, just, if nothing else, keep an eye on us over the next quarter or the next quarter or the next quarter, because there are some things that are going to happen that are key indicators that the industry is now getting ready to go through this digital transformation. It's coming. Even if you just Google it, you could Google construction industry digital transformation, and Google will tell you through AI, this is one of the most difficult industries to get to change. They're known as the laggard is the world. They're a laggard in adopting technology, but the digital transformation is coming, and once it comes, it'll come fast. And we're not going to be the only player in there. I mean, there's going to be lots of companies that are going to benefit from this digital transformation. But as far as the one that is involved in precision mapping, we will be the de facto software.
And I want to emphasize that point too, right? So in my head, this is a person that thought about these issues a long time ago. You have been fighting to get the industry to recognize it, right? And it hasn't been an easy fight. You're not some rich guy. You're not one of these big tech companies. You are you are a company that can change the world. And I don't think I'm stretching it. I think that's a fact. I think you can save lives, protect the environment, and it all makes very good logical sense, right? So this is not some pie in the sky dream. This is a real deal,
It's
right?
one of the reasons I'm still doing it. I mean, one of the reasons I'm still doing it, I just got goosebumps, is that I have a conviction that what we're providing, it will make the world a better place. It's as simple as that. And when you have that level of conviction, there's nothing that's going to deter you or derail you from what you're doing. I mean, if at the end of the day what you're doing is just all about the money, you're going to get discouraged pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now where we are, it's like, well, there's no guarantee that, we're going to make a whole bunch of money out of this, right? I believe we are, obviously. But the most important thing is that you're right. This makes the world a better place. I would love to leave this world knowing that I created that. I had to
And you
work
should.
to get
You
it.
should get every ounce of credit for that. That's one of the things that bothers me. And look, I stick in with these. I mean, we've known each other now almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And I get mad when I see a news headline that somebody died or, water main was hit and wipes out. I mean, town shuts down, right? I mean, a lot of stuff happens.
It's that I saw it was about maybe like a month ago, there was a child that was killed because the gas line wasn't correctly marked. And they were digging where they didn't think that there was an issue, hit the gas line, the house blew up and killed the child. And that the fact of the matter
Didn't
is,
have to happen.
no.
That's the thing that gets me, man.
I don't even care if you use our solution, but at least utilize the technology that's available out there to make sure that something like that doesn't happen. We just happen to be, the de facto solution. You use our solution, there's a very high probability, and I might say almost 100% that wouldn't happen.
So here's what happens. If the product isn't adopted quickly, Wall Street then becomes not as friendly with the open wallet, which then makes your job much, much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're running out of cash, and the last thing you want to do is dilute the shareholders that brought you to the dance in the first place, right? Which is typically friends and family that bootstrap and help you, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of going public.
Yeah.
Is that you get to a point where you've exhausted all of your friends and family, but they believe in you and they're supporting you and they want you to take this thing over the finish line. Wall Street convinces you that you're going to get a bunch of institutional dough when you come to the walls, but that's a bunch of bullshit because that's not how it works. You usually get stuck with retail investors because retail investors are, hoping to have hit the big one, which you can do. I mean, this is a story that is absolutely 100% true that you can feel really good about supporting, but it's got challenges and it's got an industry that doesn't like change. So how can investors, how can the public help change that narrative, right? It's about shrinking that adoption curve, right? And this is a story that you can feel so good about making it a reality, right? I mean, for multiple reasons. And for whatever reason, we do a lot, as human beings, we do a lot of stuff, especially as of late with these two opposing parties, which, look, I don't like any of them, really. I mean, we go from one extreme to another extreme. I would say that we could probably all come together and say, does this make sense to have it where we do know where our utilities are precisely buried because we have the trench open and we have the tools to actually record that percent. It would take a picture. We can do all this stuff. Does that make sense to do that? And I would say that most people would come together and say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone that doesn't immediately see the value in what it is that we provide. And in most cases, most people have been involved in some level of construction, even if it's in front of their house or it is their house or it's in their backyard. So they understand the challenges and what it is that we address and the solution that we can provide. And it just seems like it's a no-brainer. But you brought up another interesting point, especially when you're investing in early stage company. You're going to have to go raise money. And then unfortunately, you're probably going to have to raise more money. And then unfortunately, you're going to probably have to raise more money. And the question becomes eventually, how many more times are you going to have to do this? And can you continue doing it? So that's one battle you got to.
Yep.
The other battle, as you mentioned, is the adoption battle. So you got two battles.
Yep.
Okay. Fortunately, we have kind of been through the trenches on both of them. I mean, when we normally go raise money, you raise 5 million, maybe you raise another 4, then you know what I mean? I think the last financing I did, I raised about 400,000. Okay, and it's because our burn is going down significantly. The reason our burn is going down is because our revenue is actually going up. We are actually bringing on customers, and we're a SaaS company. So every time we sign a client, that's reoccurring revenue that's going to hit our bottom line, not only this year, but the next year.
Right.
Okay. Then on the flip side of that, our adoption is actually increasing, and you can see that the fight that we were fighting, say, a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago is slowly decreasing. Now, I never say never that we're not going to go and raise money, and no one should, because you don't know, okay? But I can tell you that on our current trajectory right now, and what our goal is to get to break even sometime at the end of the first or the beginning of the second quarter of next year. And just based on the revenue that we're generating month in, month out right now, and some of the larger deals that we have in our pipeline, including a couple more DOTs, that there is a high probability that we won't have to do another financing. And we have been very diligent and frugal in keeping our expenses down, watching every penny, because the most important goal for us right now is to get to break even.
You know, I think it was important. There's things called people can look at and say a lifestyle CEO, right? So in other words, they're in the public markets. They are in front of the public talking about their company and whatever it is. I mean, you'll see companies that'll go from being a pot company to an AI company to whatever's hot at that current time, right? They're not committed to of solving a real problem. They're just there really to stay employed and keep raising money from the capital markets, and they really don't want to change the world. I mean, there are companies like that. Wall Street is a lot of people say is a game, and it is. And here's the thing: you actually just, if you know how the game works, then you have an edge. There are only so many Microsoft, NVIDIAs, Apples, but what's really interesting is we always seem to come up with new Microsofts, NVIDIAs, or Apples, right? I mean,
That's right. Yeah, before there was NVIDIA,
there wasn't NVIDIA, right? So what the beautiful thing is about the stock market is really, it can be twofold. It can be, I'm going to find companies that are trying to do good things to make the world better for everybody. And at the same time, by doing that, by supporting those companies, and I'm not just talking about investing, I'm talking about letting people know that this is why this company matters, right? Right now, we spend $60 billion a year. I don't know how many people die. The environment gets screwed up, and it doesn't have to happen, right? And there's this guy that's got 2 kids that he's trying to raise that is not living the lifestyle. You're struggling to make this thing a success. And the longer that you struggle, that makes Wall Street uneasy, which then makes getting money more difficult. And there's a cost to it, right? There's a cost. The terms of the loan, or whatever you want to say, the terms of the deal become unfavorable to you.
That's right, 100%. Yeah, when you need money, that's the most difficult time to try and get money. When you don't need it, it's really pretty easy to get. That's why for us, it's paramount that we get the break. I think what the market realizes, we don't need any more money. It'll be funny because we'll probably have opportunities to take on money in order to scale and, accelerate, but maybe we don't want to. But the point of it is, our paramount first focused right now is get to.
And you would have never anticipated that it would take this long for companies to look at this and say, yeah, we should be doing this, because it benefits them too. It makes their job site safer. It keeps the timeline, because what happens when you hit a utility on the job?
When you hit, number one, when you hit a utility, I always say some really bad things can happen. Okay. It's either injury to the worker, as I mentioned, it could be death. It's dangerous. Okay. There are high likelihood, especially if it's a gas line or a pipeline, which means there's going to be damages to the environment. And everyone says, well, what then the cost? But the reality of it is, when you're on a job site, unfortunately, cost is first and foremost, because you're out there to make money. That's just the reality. Okay.
And what happens when you hit it? Everybody gets sent home, right?
Oh yeah.
They do an investigation. How did it happen? Right? All this stuff.
Whose fault was it? Yeah.
Okay.
Why weren't they located correctly in the first place? Was the marking wrong? Was it the locating company? Was it the engineering surveying company? Was it the excavator's fault because he wasn't paying attention? If you just had all the information, that's also pretty easy to identify who wasn't utilizing the information.
Which would save time.
Yeah.
And save money.
Yeah.
Which is one of those three things. What was it? Safety, come in on time, under budget.
Yeah. Trust them all.
You hit all three of them.
Well, and we also haven't brought up the fact that somebody might say, well, this sounds expensive. And in reality, over the last 5 years,
What have you heard?
we've actually brought our costs down significantly, because that's the one beauty.
But nobody believes that's part of the problem.
It's too cheap.
You're too cheap. There's no way you can do
All that.
what you say you can do for the price that you're looking to charge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How crazy is that? I personally have sent out letters to CEOs of large construction companies and said, look, all I want you to do, I'm not trying to sell them anything. I just want them to take a look at your product and do an honest assessment of I want you to ask yourself this question: can this company make you more efficient, right? And save you time and make your job site safer. If you look at it and you can confirm that, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it does. You've already won. I mean, you've won in a big way. I can't even get people to look at it. That's where I get very, very, very frustrated, because it's going to benefit. And I'll just tell you right now, as I think as an investor, if I was this big multi-conglomerate construction company that makes very thin margins on the stuff that I build, but then I find this thing that's going to make all of my job sites safer and more efficient, I don't know, I might buy the stock in the company. There's so many things that make sense to me.
You brought up a good point, though, and it was the same thing that initially we were focused on, is that you would think that it would be the big companies. And when it comes to the big companies, like any other industry, there's a handful of them that dominate the industry. Okay? And they all operate under the same business practices. Like if you take a look at how one company operates compared to the other, other than their sign and where their office is located, it's pretty much the same business practices. Okay. What's going to change the bigger companies and how they operate is actually new, smaller companies that are more agile, more willing to
Less red tape.
100%. And that's what we're seeing right now. And now we even know, we're hearing, like, how did that little company receive the job, the project, and we didn't get it? And number one, it's because they came in, they underbid it. And number two, the deliverable that they're going to provide is far better, because when the project's done, we have a complete digital imprint of where all the utilities and pipelines are located. So it doesn't not only provide value for the duration of that project, you have a complete deliverable that you can provide to the client when it's done, so they can use that in the future. Because normally what happens, if they come back and they're doing construction in that area, then the whole process,
You got to redo it all over again. Yep.
So that's crazy too. Well, I don't like to use that word, but I
have to. I mean, I look at it. Look, it's been way too long, man. I look at it, and I know, Paige, we have become friends, and I know the struggles that you go through. Right? Here's a guy that's trying to start a business, that's trying to make the world a better place, and Wall Street really doesn't give a shit, because that's just how this is the monster. This is how it works. But what everybody has the opportunity to do is be part owner of this company. Now, you're talking about solving $1 trillion global problem.
$1 trillion,
right? Proven. This isn't bullshit. I mean, you literally have white paper where you have decreased utility strikes by 97%, right? Your stock right now is trading, I think, at about what, 10 cents, 8 cents?
But US would probably be around 8.5. I didn't check today, but I'll say
8.5 cents.
Yeah.
Now, you could be anybody and probably clean out your car, maybe your couch, and pick up enough change to buy some shares of ProStar, and then become an advocate of why the company matters. And the company does matter. It matters in a big way. And the sooner that we get that, the sooner that the groundswell of people, the masses, understand that, and they can start asking their politicians and why aren't we using this? This makes a lot of sense. Putting some pressure on, it's sad to say, and I never would have thought this, but when there is money to be made in a system that's already established, do you think they want to give up that money? Do you think the utilities want to be, not have an excuse to raise your bill every year? Do you think the insurance companies want to not have an excuse to raise your bill every year? Eliminate all of these accidental utility strikes. That's a lot of money. What do we do with that money? And you're part owner of a company that is changing the world for the better. That's what the stock market offers you. The problem is that the stock market has also done a very good job of making retail investors very afraid of little companies. But every company that is now a mammoth company at one point was a little company.
Well, you know what? Now you brought, my favorite story is NVIDIA. And I have to admit, like a few years ago, I didn't know who NVIDIA was. I thought maybe they were a new emerging company, only to find out they've been around for 30 years. And there was a time in 1997, I think it started in 95. In 1997, they had no money. They laid off half their workforce, half their developers. They didn't even pay their electricity bill because they needed to save money so they could cover payroll. And then they just happened to sign a contract with Seika, the gaming company. The contract was for about 5 million. Now you think about that, $5 million contract. What's NVIDIA worth today? About 5 trillion. But that's a good point that you make. I mean, they were a small, struggling company at some point in time, and that's probably the story for 95% for companies. You know,
Yeah.
some of them come out of the blocks, and that's only recently will they'll raise, 100 million or $1 billion. Most companies have to scrap it out for several years, and they go through trials and tribulations before they finally make it. They just keep plugging away. That's actually what makes the changes in the world. It's not the big companies. It's the little guys that come up with innovation that eventually become, they force the change.
Right? If you look at it, you're one of those companies, and there's nobody that can tell me that this is a noble. I mean, this is like really, construction is personal to me because I was in construction. I was in that industry, so I've been on a job site when they hit utility. I've been sent home.
Here's the thing about this. One thing I can assure you on, with the greatest level of conviction, okay? At some point, every utility line that's going into the ground
It's going to be mapped.
will be digitally mapped.
Absolutely.
Okay? And at some point, we will have located where all the existing utility lines are in the world. They'll be digitally mapped.
Yeah.
The question comes down to when and how. Okay? So we have the solution. I can show you how we're going to do it. And I can also show you that we're starting to do it. It's just a question of when does it
accelerate?
When does it accelerate? I don't have a crystal ball on that, but if you start following what we're doing, then you'll start to see that adoption is starting to increase. And
this is where I see a real opportunity, especially now in this particular world we live in, where the divide seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. If you think about what you spend your time on, if you're spending your time on anything that's creating divide or tearing shit down, is that the most effective use of your time? Would you rather be involved in that, or would you rather be involved in supporting somebody that really is trying to do positive things for the world? And then if you can help that person do that, and then guess what? We go find another one and we help them do that too. And there's a bunch of them.
Well, there'll be a lot.
There are so many on Wall Street, and everybody says, oh man, you can't, if you could pick one, you get a 10-bagger one time in your life, you're doing pretty good. I can show you a bunch of them. And here's the thing. I have really interesting criteria. I need to understand the value and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Then I need to understand, well, is it possible? Well, yeah, it's been proven. Okay. Then it's like, now you got me. I'm all in. I want to help you in every way possible. Because why? Well, it's going to make the world, it's a huge, huge problem, right? Global in nature. If it becomes a standard here, it's most likely going to become a standard everywhere, right? And this is $1 trillion. Now, does that mean that Paige Tucker could get really filthy, stinking rich? Yeah. And he deserves to. And anybody that sees that vision now and isn't swayed by the markets is going to, anything awesomely great is, if you're going to do something awesomely great, it's never easy.
No.
Right? It comes with a lot of pain. And I've had the pain with you right there, side by side, and it is aggravating.
On an interview with Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, they asked him, knowing what you know now and what it took to get NVIDIA to where it is, would you have done it in the beginning? You know what his answer was?
No.
No way.
I know. I saw that same interview.
Now that just gives you an example. Like when you take, this is NVIDIA. This is the largest, most valuable company in the world. And the CEO and founder saying, no, I wouldn't have went through.
It was pain.
Yeah.
Right.
The sacrifice is there. But that's what, you know what I always say, right? I mean, anything worth doing is worth sacrificing. So,
When in my journey of what I do, it's important for me to get to know leadership. And one of the things that I learned about Paige Tucker early on was you really were on me. You wanted me to see. I didn't know what your company did. I have no clue. I didn't know what ProStar was. And you were just on me. You were relentless. You wouldn't let it go. And you finally got me. You got me I said, yeah, let's do 15 minutes. And then I went and looked at your site and I started going through it. And I'm like, oh, shit. If this can do what this says he's trying to do, this is like the holy grail, right? So our 15-minute first meeting wound up going like 2.5 hours, right? And I had to go to another meeting, but I wanted to stay at this meeting. And then I started really getting to know you, and you always wore button-down shirts, right? And I told you there were some things that I was helping you with that just kind of fell into my lap. And you're like, Tim, I knew you were going to be good. I said, Paige, this isn't really, this fell into my lap. I may look like a real genius here, but no, it just fell. And you said, oh, I'm not surprised. And you started to roll up your sleeve. Then I thought that was weird. But he said, you know what all this is? And I said, what? He says, karma. Serendipity. When you said that to me, I wasn't a big karma guy, but when you said it, I literally got goosebumps. And because it felt like that. It did kind of feel like there were some things that were happening that were serendipitous in nature, and it was a karma thing. But what did it tell me about you as a human being?
boy, when you said we're going to sit down and roll up our sleeves today, I didn't know we were going to be going this far.
Well, you know what? Because these are the things that people don't see, and they should.
I believe in life, if you do the right thing, the right things will happen. And that's karma. And I don't expect everybody to buy into that philosophy, or some people might say, yeah, that's mumbo jumbo. But I honestly believe if you do the right thing, the right things will happen. Now, human nature might not happen on your time frame. Okay, this isn't your calendar. This isn't your watch. Okay, this is more the universe. But you do the right things, and the right things will happen. And that's always worked for me. Even when we're in a financial crunch and it's like, man, what are we going to do? It's like a deal comes along. But it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me, because I think that what we're doing it's like a cause. Like this is meant to come to fruition for all the good reasons. It's going to come to fruition. So sometimes when we're struggling, there's what I call forces out there that are kind of keeping an eye on you, making sure that you get to where you need to get to. But again, there's going to be trials and tribulations. I expect there to be more trials and tribulations, but that's what makes it worth it. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? And I know with these companies or small companies that went through struggles, if you sat down with them, they don't all just have a story. You could probably sit there for hours and they can tell you multiple stories. But we are doing the right thing, and we're doing it for the right reason. And the world will be a better place as a result of that. As simple as that. And that's worth fighting for. And I've done this long enough now. The reality of it is there is no turning back. There is no plan B. There is no plan B. No, this is the plan, and it will work. It's I have more conviction today than ever that everything is falling into place for multiple reasons that I mentioned earlier.
And that's that conviction. I have that conviction with you because I believe that this is a no-brainer. This is like, we have the opportunity to make every job site safer and more efficient. Why aren't we doing it, right?
If anything this has done for me from as you talk about character and stuff, what this journey has done for me is it's humbled me. It really has. It's humbled me. because I thought this would be easy. I did think I knew exactly what we were going to be doing and that the world would just open their arms up and embrace it. The reality of it is no, much harder than that. But through that humbleness, it's also given me a longer runway. I don't care if this takes another 2 or 3 years. I'm patient enough. Do you know what I mean? Because I can see it coming, and I realize that, again, like we mentioned, look at nothing good comes easy. That's just the reality of it. I think anybody even listening understands what I'm talking about. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. It's just the way it is. It's going to take hard work, probably harder than you
Ever imagine.
right. And more importantly, you can't do it yourself. And I knew this from day one, even with the team I put together. But now what I'm realizing with this ecosystem that I'm building, that's truly the village that's going to help me accomplish my goals. And we're all going to benefit from it. So it's not me. I've created this village now, and collectively, we're going to make this happen. And that village is continuing to grow. Every month we're adding more now. And eventually we'll hit what I call that tipping point where it's like, okay, you've broken through and the adoption. And once it happens, it's going to be a tidal wave. It'll happen quick.
What's really funny is Wall Street is really a challenging thing. They have, they literally are gauged by their performance to the S&P 500. If they're not outperforming the S&P 500, they're probably not going to keep their clients, right? Investing is a very different thing. It's a different animal. It's like you look at it and you say, okay, how big is the need? How big is the TAM? The TAM is ginormous, right? Okay, how important is it? Well, saves lives, the environment, those are pretty important things. Wall Street isn't patient enough. It's all about short-term fees and being able to outperform the S&P 500. That's why for the last 5 years, all you really had to do was put your money in 7 companies, the Magnificent Seven, right? How long can the Magnificent Seven carry the entire world? Probably not a whole lot longer, I don't think. So at some point, you have to have those other up-and-comers.
Mm-hmm.
And man, if you can find those up-and-comers and be patient and have the conviction to understand that, to me, this isn't a story of if. It's a story of when.
We're getting a little off track here, and I'm not an expert by any means when it comes to baseball, but I watched the World Series this year because I'm Canadian and the Blue Jays were playing. So I'm like, and I'm a Dodgers.
So you're
fan.
Canadian, I'm American, we're friends?
Yeah, and I'm a Dodgers fan. So it was a little bit. It was serious. Like, which side do I cheer for, right? But that Soho, who they brought in when there was 2 out, and he's the one that hit the home run, and then he caught the ball on second and threw the guy out at home. No one wanted him in baseball. He was just so happy to come to the United States. He signed a $7,000 contract. $7,000. If you take a look at probably the standard process of identifying players that are going to make it to Major League Baseball, I'll guarantee you, he obviously slipped through every crack. But there was one scout that identified and said, I think this kid's got some talent. But when I heard that story, I mean, he basically, you could argue, except for Yakamoto was pitching, that Soho in that like 3-inning stretch won the World Series. But he had signed a $7,000 a year contract, which to me, I was like, wow, there's an example. Like the numbers always don't have to line up. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Just look. That's what I tell you. Look at the story on what we're doing. Take a look at the opportunity. Take a look at what we've created over the last 10 years. I mean, I think we're starting to approach where we have almost $50 million US invested in this. Yet our market cap's around 15 million. If you're ever going to invest in a company based on, your research and everything you want to take a look at, now's the time to take a look at where we are. And if nothing else, and I say this with the highest level of conviction, just put us on your radar and start take a look at what's happening over the next few months, because I'll start putting out more announcements. I kind of went quiet when it comes to being promotional, as you mentioned, put your suit on, going out on the road, because I knew what we need to do is focus right now on getting to break even, which requires a great deal amount of my time as well. I don't have time to be out there over promoting. And I knew that when the timing is right, this company would promote itself. Like, it'll promote itself. I don't have to be out there knocking on the doors. And I think that that time is coming. We're close.
Well, I am, like I said, diehard fan of Paige Tucker, diehard fan of PointMan, and the change that you are going to make for the world. And I think the sooner that other people can recognize that and jump on board, the happier they'll be too, because they'll be part of something that does make the world a better place. Be the ripple, help create the wave. That is, as I get older, I mean, I started out as an investor just to make extra money. That's all it was about to me. As I look at the world today and I see the things that are dividing us, and I see the things that are concerning to me about just the health of the country and where we're headed, even Wall Street, the way it functions, a lot of things life is hard, man. Life is very, very hard. But you have two choices. You can let it kick your ass, or you can figure out how to kick its ass.
How to kick some ass, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So I look at you and I say, well, you've been at this for 10 years and Wall Street's given up on you, but I haven't given up on you. And I think those people that understand this whole dynamic of what we're talking about right now, if they don't give up on it, the more people that join, the bigger the ripple gets, the bigger the wave becomes. The wave then forces change. Because there's a 300 and how many people, million people in this country? When crowds speak,
yep,
it garners attention, and then things happen. That curve can shrink dramatically, because if you get one company that is a serious player and they start using it, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, they're using it, we should be using it too, right? And then it's the snowball effect.
Exactly.
And it changes. It can happen so quickly, right? I can tell you that there's a company that 11 months ago was 9 cents a share. If you look at it today, it's over 2 and change. That's a big...
It can happen quick.
It can happen quick. And that can be life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
To somebody that doesn't have to put in a whole bunch of money. It can literally change their life, right? And that's what drew me to the stock market initially was, wow, if I can, and I got lucky right out of the chute, didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Sometimes that's the worst thing.
That is the worst thing. I'll tell you that right now. All right.
It's like, I got this.
I'm a stock savant. That's right. No.
Then the next 20 not so good.
So, but
like, what's going on here?
those lessons.
Yeah.
But what I did learn was, man, I can make my money work for me, right? And if you get to this point where you've identified companies that can do a lot of good, and they do fill a need, not a want, very different, a need. And if you're patient enough, if you can be patient enough and weather the storm, just like you have the conviction to not give up until you succeed, who the fuck do you want to invest in? Somebody that's just like you,
yeah,
right? That is not going to give up, because failure is not an option.
That's it.
Right?
No.
Okay. That's who I want. That's who I want in my bunker next to me, man. is the one that says failure is not an option, right? And that's who you are, and you've proven that over many years.
No, it's not. Well, no, it's probably started when I was a child. Like I don't like the word no. I think I've been well, I was a disruptive child. My parents will tell you that, and now I'm still disruptive. It's just part of who I am.
It's
right?
it's in your DNA.
Someone said, you think this is going to work? No, that just drives me to, well, I'm
gonna show you.
Yeah, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
And I love that. I love that spirit.
Many when it was 15 years ago when I first sat down, with one of the leading engineers in the industry, and we worked together. He's still works with us. He's an advisor for us but I remember telling him that I'm going to replace surveying on mobile phone 15 years ago. He said that'll never happen. Today, I can. Now, it still requires a surveyor to approve the information, what we call a professional, but we can do surveying on a mobile phone, and a layman can do it. That's how much things have changed and how quickly they've changed. But I love when someone says, oh, that'll never happen, or never, or no. It's like, well,
there's no such thing.
No, hell no.
Right? Mm-hmm. Not if you've got somebody that just
somebody that has the drive, and not just me. Like there's many people out there that have said, well, we're going to make this happen. I mean, it probably wasn't that long ago we're saying we're not going to cure polio. Well, someone decided we're going to do it. We're using stem cells now. There was a lady cured, I think it was in China, of diabetes. I mean, that would, 50 years ago, it's probably that'll never happen.
Right.
Take somebody to decide, I'm going to do it.
And there's a bunch of these.
100%.
I mean, this is one of my favorites.
Isn't unique. I'm not unique. There's people out there that go, we're going to do this. Question is, you better buckle up, but you better have the drive and the conviction
to make it happen.
Yeah, because it's going to be probably 10 times harder than you ever imagined. It's going to be so hard that you wouldn't have done it if you knew how hard it was.
Right. It hurts.
But you get so deep into it that really what it does is it creates even more drive. You don't lose your drive. It actually accelerates. It strengthens because it's like an investment in anything. I'm so invested in this. I'm not going anywhere. If I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I wouldn't be doing this still.
I want you to see the light of the,
I appreciate it.
Here's the thing. You look like a young man, but you're getting up there.
Oh, that's not talking about This doesn't make it any easier either.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want you to see the
No, this is it. No, this is it for me. I say that 100% with conviction. This is it. There is no plan B. And I don't need a plan B. This is the plan. This isn't my first rodeo. I've started businesses before. I've executed on businesses. I know where we are right now. I know where we are. It's been a rough, tumultuous road, but you got to expect that. But I know where we are right now, and that's me. That's what I feel inside. We're close.
You're a good man.
And you know what? Well, what I'm saying is, let's do this again in a couple months and see where we are in a couple months from where we were.
Oh, that's definitely that's part of the plan.
Let's do it.
Right? I mean, Paige Tucker. If anybody doesn't know, the ticker symbol is NAPPF.
That's correct.
Right?
It's on the OTC. Right?
It's on the OTC. Pay attention to this story because things are developing that look, you and I have thought over the last 5 years that, boy, this thing's happening and this should be it. This should be the rocket.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, you know what? I don't mind telling you, it'll be Groundhog Day, even though it'll be Christmas, but it'll be deja vu. Because on December 31st at around 11:59, I'm going to say, this is the year.
Right.
And I honestly,
which is what you've been saying?
Yeah. But I honestly believe it is. Yeah, I do. There's just so many changes taking place in the industry right now that we've always been trying to push this.
Yeah.
There's like now. There's a lot of pull.
Right.
There's a lot of pull. That's that's probably the major difference of anything else that we can end on is we're starting to see the pull. And that's a big difference.
Learn the story, people. MAPPF, put it on your radar. if that, you all know my new thing, buy one share.
I just say, go through the car and the
Pull out some change.
console and see
Right.
some change in there, and yeah.
And look, I maybe in this case, buy more than one share, because this is the kind of company, if you think about the size of this problem at this level, and what you just said, how much money has been put into this thing, and knowing that you are not going anywhere until you achieve your goal.
Well, no, maybe the last thing too is that now everyone probably they understand what the issue is and what the challenges are, and the fact that there is a solution that can resolve all that. Sometimes the question becomes, well, can anybody else do this? Well, good luck on that, because we have been at this for 10 years. And a lot of it is the relationships with all the companies that we've created. A lot of times investors want to know, what's the moat? Well, we have IP. We have over a dozen patents, which means, number one, that shows that we are the pioneer. I mean, that validates us as the pioneer to get that patents issued. But more important, the relationships that we've created with all of these other software and hardware providers, because we took the position long ago that we're agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So even though a lot of these companies compete with each other, they don't have any issue that we're working with all of them together. Because the one thing we agreed on collectively, and I've even brought companies that compete with each other into meetings, if we can break down this wall and the new emerging technologies are adopted, we all
Win.
Oh yeah, more so than you'll ever imagine, because as you mentioned, the size of the TAM, there's enough to go around for everyone. And I forgot to mention that is that no one is going to just wake up one morning and they've tried. There are companies out there that have tried to do what we're doing, and they failed, and they are now our customers and our clients. Even the hardware manufacturers have tried to do it. It looked easy, but this isn't easy.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate your time.
No, man, it was great to have you in person in
thank
Vegas.
you.
So unfortunately,
I'm glad I did.
the weather didn't cooperate.
That's okay.
You're a good
Appreciate
man.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
And we'll do this again soon.
I'm in.
Okay, brother.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.